Greetings and welcome to this demo of OpenText Migrate full server migration. In this video, we'll see how to migrate an entire Windows server, including the server system state and applications. We will migrate a standalone production server running Windows Server 2019. We refer to a production server as the source. It could be a physical or a virtual machine running on any hypervisor. If you can install OpenText Migrate on a standalone server, it can be migrated with a full server migration job. This is a one-to-one migration. For each production server you need to migrate, you must build a compatible target server. This target server running the same OS as the source could be a physical or a virtual machine running on any hypervisor. Refer to the online documentation for the compatibility requirements. Migrations are conducted from the OpenText Replication Console. In this demo, OpenText Migrate version 8.5.7 is already installed on the source and the target, and both servers have already been added to the console. A Migrate license has been assigned to the source, and it has been activated as we can see in the licensing status column. Targets do not require a license. We have all we need to create a full server migration job, so let's get started. From the Servers page, right-click the server you want to migrate and select Migrate. Next, choose the type of workload that you want to migrate. Under Server Workloads, in the Workload Types pane, select Full Server Migration. In the Workload Items pane, all directly attached volumes on the source are automatically selected to be migrated. By default, OpenText Migrate selects your entire source for migration. If desired, click the Replication Rules heading and expand the volumes under Folders. You will see that OpenText Migrate automatically excludes particular files that cannot be used during the migration. If desired, you can exclude other files that you do not want to migrate. Next, select the target server. This is the server that will become your migrated production server. Next, you have many options available for your full server migration job. Configure those options that are applicable to your environment. In the General panel, the default job name is source name to target name. In the Failover Options panel, the cutover process is set to be initiated manually, allowing you to control when cutover occurs. The job will wait in the protecting state for you to manually initiate the cutover process. If you disable this option, the cutover process starts automatically immediately after the mirror is complete. Specify if you want to shut down the source server, if it is still online, before the source is cut over to the target. If the source and target are still both running and communicating when the cutover starts, the target sends a shutdown command to the source. The option to change target ports to match source during failover allows you to specify if you want the OpenText Migrate ports on the target to be updated to match the source during cutover. This option is useful in NAT environments where the public port does not match the private port. You can customize cutover by running scripts stored on the target. Scripts may contain any valid Windows command, executable, or batch file. The scripts are processed using the same account running the DoubleTake management service. A pre-failover script runs on the target at the beginning of the cutover process. The post-failover script runs on the migrated production server once the cutover process is completed. Specify the full path and name of the script file. In the Failover Identity panel, Apply Source Network Configuration to the target is the default option. If your target is on the same subnet as the source, typical of a local area network environment, you should select this option. Do not select this option if you are using a network address translation environment that has a different subnet on the other side of the router. Use Retain Target Network Configuration if your target is on a different subnet, typical of a WAN or NAT environment. After the cutover, the migrated production server will run using the target IP address. It is not necessary to force a DNS update when retaining the target network configuration during a migration because the migrated production server will register its new IP address with DNS. A typical migration window allows ample time for the DNS change to propagate. Under Network Adapter Options, specify how you want the IP addresses associated with each network adapter on the source to be mapped to a network adapter on the target. Do not mix public and private networks. All default options in the Mirror Verify and Orphan Files panel will be suitable for most full server migrations. You can skip this section. The Network Route panel is where you select an IP address on the target for transmissions. The drop-down menu will display all private IP addresses on the target. This allows you to separate regular network traffic and OpenText Migrate traffic on a machine with multiple IP addresses. You can also type a public IP address if you are using a NAT environment. If you enter a public IP address, You will see additional fields allowing you to specify port numbers to use to allow the target to communicate through a router. In the Staging Folder Options panel, select additional folders from the source that need to be staged. Generally, this will only apply to applications that are not installed in the Windows Program Files directory. In this case, click Add and specify the folder that you want staged on the target. Any staged folders will be applied to their actual installation location during cutover. OpenText Migrate controls which services are running and stopped on the target during the migration. In the Target Services panel, you can specify which services you want to keep running by clicking Add and selecting a service from the list. Services are stopped on the target to protect against retry operations. Do not leave services running unless necessary. Enable Show Essential Services to display the list of essential services that will remain running on the target. They cannot be removed from the list. To help reduce the amount of bandwidth needed to transmit OpenText Migrate data, compression allows you to compress data prior to transmitting it across the network. In a WAN environment, this provides optimal use of your network resources. If compression is enabled, the data is compressed before it is transmitted from the source. When the target receives the compressed data, it decompresses it and then writes it to disk. You can set the level from minimum to maximum to suit your needs. Keep in mind that the process of compressing data impacts processor usage on the source. You can adjust the level of compression on the fly. Review the documentation guidelines to determine whether you should enable compression or not. Bandwidth limitations are available to restrict the amount of network bandwidth used for OpenText Migrate data transmissions. When a bandwidth limit is specified, OpenText Migrate never exceeds that allotted amount. The bandwidth not in use by OpenText Migrate is available for all other network traffic. No bandwidth limit is the default. You can set a fixed bandwidth limit or schedule a bandwidth limit. Bandwidth limits can be modified on the fly. In the Scripts panel, you can specify scripts to run at different stages of the mirror process. This panel is not usually used for migrations. Once you have set your job options, click Next. OpenText Migrate validates that your source and target are compatible. The summary page displays your options and validation items. Click on any of the validation items to see details. You must correct any errors before you can continue. You may be able to click Fix or Fix All and let OpenText Migrate correct errors or warnings for you. For those errors that OpenText Migrate cannot correct automatically, you will need to modify the source or target to correct the error, or you can select a different target. You must revalidate the selected servers by clicking Recheck until the validation check passes without errors. Warnings do not prevent the migration job creation but should be reviewed carefully. Once your servers have passed validation and you are ready to begin migration, click Finish and you will automatically be taken to the Jobs page. When the job starts, mirror and replication start simultaneously. The mirror copies all the data there is to migrate to the target, block by block, skipping data that is already identical on the target. Remember that no downtime is necessary while the migration job is running. The production keeps running until it is time to finalize the migration with the cutover process. When the migration mirror is complete, the mirror status changes to idle. The job's activity status changes to protecting. Source and target are synchronized. Byte-level replication keeps running, keeping the target up to date with the changes written on the production server until cutover. This means that you don't need to perform a last synchronization before cutover. When it is time to finalize your migration, with your job in a healthy state, just click Cutover. In the Failover and Cutover dialog box, Cutover to live data is the only option. You can select how to handle the data in the target queue. By default, data in the target queue will be written to disk before cutover begins. If you select Do Discard it, it will be lost. Click Cutover. During the first part of the cutover, the job activity status is Failing Over. If the source is still online, it is shut down. The staged data on the target is written to its final location. The progress of this process is indicated by a percentage. The time it takes varies, depending on the amount of data staged, the target performance, whether an antivirus is running on the target, etc. Note that the entire cutover process is the only time when downtime is required to migrate your entire server from anywhere to anywhere. Let's jump close to 100%. Because some files are still open by the target OS, the target is automatically rebooted. The job goes into error, which is normal because the console cannot communicate with the target anymore. At this stage, ping the production server. It will respond before the job status is updated in the console because the double-take management service has a delayed start. The complete cutover process takes on average anything between 5 and 15 minutes for a Windows server. Log on your migrated server and check that it is working as it should. It is now time for user acceptance testing. The app owners perform all required roles and app validations. Once UAT is completed, the server is deemed successfully migrated. Any dependency on the source hardware, a MAC address for example, will need to be addressed. NICs teaming solutions are typically implemented in the OS, however they are still designed to emulate a single piece of network hardware. In these cases, the device will not be cut over because it appears to be a hardware device. Another example is the Windows product activation. Because it is dependent on hardware, you may need to reactivate your Windows registration after cutover. In this demo we checked that the user's shares on the migrated server are accessible remotely. Now let's go back to the OpenText replication console. The job activity status has been updated to failed over. Notice the target server name is now the source name. The job cannot be reused, so you can safely delete it. This concludes this demonstration of migrating Windows servers from anywhere to anywhere with a full server migration job. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.